the first full careful operator in Nigeria, and Ahmed Zakari and Co., one of the leading firm of chartered accountants here in northern Nigeria. But let me first of all provide some background and context. There are any number of issues currently dominating public debate in northern Nigeria. But I think none is more compelling and urgent than the Almajiranci system of Islamic education. What does history tell us about this system of education? First, we know that its seeds were planted in the Kano Barrow Empire as far back as about 10 centuries ago. We know that it was a runaway success, and it became a rich foundation of knowledge, which supplied the pool of talents that were required to man the public sector in northern Nigeria. We know that the colonial powers disrupted this system of education and denied it funding. We know that as a consequence of this disruption, not only was funding cut off, but the education component of the system was subsequently neglected. This is more or less by way of a historical background. What are the current objective realities on the ground? First, it is an incontrovertible fact that the Almajiranci system of education is fast becoming a relic of the past. It is also an undisputable fact that although there have been many conferences and retreats held over the last 10 decades on this subject, these initiatives have done little to stop the slow and steady march of Almajiris into oblivion. Regardless of the feeble intervention efforts by various governments, the last one under the Jonathan administration, third point to make is that it is the inconvenient truth that the system has collapsed to a point where a majority of our children are armies of ball-carrying children roaming the streets and begging for their daily sustenance. Just to put the statistics in sharp relief, a staggering 9.5 million, or 72% of the country's out-of-school children are Almajiris today. Therefore, life for these kids means that all hope is lost, as their life has become nasty, brutish, and short. It therefore falls upon this generation to bear the call to arms, to deal with this scourge which is afflicting all of us and which is blighting the face and character of northern Nigeria. Let me now discuss the purpose of this webinar. The first objective is to actually create a robust platform under which a community of thought leaders can work together as change agents for a transformed Almajiranci system. Second, to devise concrete, realistic, implementable, and innovative solutions underpinned by a comprehensive action plan to fundamentally reform the current Almajiranci system in accordance with the dictates of modern times. So these basically are the objectives of the webinar, as has been advised to you previously. With every meeting and every conference, there are a number of house rules that need to be adhered to by all in order to have a seamless and effective meeting. The first of these house rules is that questions should be submitted via text on the Q&A button at the bottom of your screens. Please state your name clearly professional calling, and the panelists to whom the question is addressed. Questions should be addressed only to the presenters of the papers. Second, all inputs provided by panelists should be progressive, forward-looking, and solutions-oriented. I would like to crave the indulgence of people who are making questions or comments to similarly follow this line of thought. Third, this is not a webinar for assigning blame, but one focused on practical, actionable solutions. The time for trading blame is over. This webinar will run exactly in accordance with the time allotted, which is 3 hours. Therefore, each speaker will talk for a maximum of 8 minutes. I repeat, each speaker will speak for a maximum of 8 minutes. After the panelists are done with their papers, we shall then move swiftly into the Q&A session. The time allotted for this is approximately 40 minutes. The control room operators for the webinar are actually in this room seated here with me, and they'll be managing the time as we go along. I would also like to say that at this point in time, we have over 220 participants out of the total number of registered people. I believe others will be joining in due course. Ladies and gentlemen, with these introductory remarks, the next thing on the calendar to actually ask the panelists to commence their presentation. Let me just say that we have a cast of star-studded panelists, each one of whom is an authority in his field of expertise, and each one of whom is a highly accomplished general manager of competence and distinction. With these introductory remarks, I would like to introduce the first panelist, who is Dr. Bashir Galadanci. Dr. Bashir is a computer and telecommunications engineering expert who has broad experience in the ICT and telecommunication sector. He studied in Saudi Arabia and the US, respectively, and has chaired many high-level committees on ICT at both the state and federal levels in this country. He's a strong advocate of the use of ICT and has pioneered the establishment of IT parks in his home state of Kano. He has been teaching in Bayero University, Kano since 1985 and has held several teaching and administrative positions over the years, including being the director of the Computer Center. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is now my singular honor and pleasure to ask Dr. Bashir, who will present his paper on a researcher's perspective, and therefore providing a very important context for our conversation this morning. Dr. Bashir, please.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. The chairman of this occasion, Your Royal Highness, panel, my brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. I would like to start by thanking the organizers for not only inviting me, but also making me the first